Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where we say, employee morale is actually a real thing. It's not an AI hallucination, I swear to you. So I think it's interesting with what's going on in the tech industry right now, because we've been going through a fever dream for about the last decade, right? All of these technology companies have been growing, not based off of revenue and profit most of the time, but based off of actual investor valuations and investment money being dumped into companies. Basically, money was incredibly cheap. Borrow it for a 1% yearly interest rate and try to get a 20 or 30% return, and then you keep the spread. You earn 20 to 30% interest every year for basically doing absolutely nothing. That's what's been going on in the tech world, right? The tech companies, right? They haven't really had a good profit. Many times they haven't had good revenue. They haven't had good user growth. They haven't had a lot of good things going on. And so what they decided to do is they just decided to hire employees, right? We are going to prove how successful we are by putting more asses in seats. And so a lot of people out there, a lot of folks in the tech world got hired because of their ass. Not because it was a pretty ass, just because it was any ass. Any ass will do in an investor storm. So anyways, they've been hiring asses to sit in seats, and then as they hired more and more asses to sit in seats, and they got more desperate to put asses in seats, it made the people sitting in those seats feel very powerful. Look at how much power we have over this company. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I might quit. Which is hilarious coming from the Gen Zers. The Gen Zers are just waiting to quit. Just give me an excuse to quit, right? And we came up with this very weird dynamic. It's just a weird dynamic. I don't get it, right? When I worked in the corporate world, we got Starbucks coffee. I remember when K-Cups were introduced. I was like, yay, K-Cup. Remember when K-Cups made you excited? You're like, wow, when I'm doing a 16-hour shift, I can get a freshly brewed cup of coffee. Remember when K-Cups were exciting? I remember when K-Cups were exciting. Anyways, we have this world now where they've got these cafeterias and they've got slides and they've got video games. They've got so much stuff other than actually going in there and doing your job. And so the issue that we're running into, right, is the paradigm is shift, right? We've had the last decade of fucking stupidity. Right? But, right, the people that have been working during this decade have been sold a lie, right? They've been sold the lie by their employers, by their mommies and daddies and the politicians and everybody else. They've been told how valuable their ass really is. Unfortunately, they're coming at a time in the story where the stripper turns 40. Stripper turns 40, right? So the asses just ain't valuable anymore. The asses aren't valuable. The old guys want something new, and it's not particularly your ass. And so they're getting rid of people. They're getting rid of people en masse. And so what's curious here is you've had this whole generation of technology professionals that have been lied to for a decade. And they've been lied to so much, there is a culture of buying that lie, right? We have a cargo cult culture in the tech industry, right? If enough asses are in seats, your company will be worth $100 billion too. And that's really what's been created. The issue is that shit doesn't work, right? It doesn't actually work for the cargo cults out there. It doesn't work in the technology industry, so people are getting fired left and right. So what's interesting with Microsoft, right? Microsoft hired all these people. Why did they hire these people? Who the hell knows? Because everybody else was hiring people. Because they were doing what everybody else is doing the way a true visionary company would, and they're letting people go. They just eviscerate, right? I think it's 16,000 employees let go over the past 365 days. On top of that, they're bringing back a return to office mandate, forcing employees to come back to the office. And the curious thing with that is employees have to come to the office if they're within 50 miles of the headquarters office for Puget Sound. And as I've said, right, I lived in Seattle for a little while. in 2015. And one of the reasons my wife and I decided not to live in Seattle was simply because of the traffic, right? The traffic in the Seattle area is literally so bad. That was one of our decision points, right? We had an apartment on some place called Green Lake. Green Lake is beautiful. Anyways, we had an apartment on Green Lake. I could look out my apartment and see downtown. I could see downtown Seattle. Downtown Seattle is like 2 miles away. But, you know, you got Puget Sound, you got the water and all that. So there's bridges that go between, you know, the upper part of Seattle and lower part of Seattle. And I shit you not, it would take 45 minutes to go 2 miles. Like you would get on the interstate, because one of the ideas too with Seattle is, oh, you live in the city, you're doing big tech work, but you can just escape. You can just escape to the mountains. You can escape to the ski slopes, or you can escape to the sea kayaking. You can escape to hiking. Right? That's a good story to tell. Except it would be Saturday. It would be Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Was it I-5? I think that goes through there. And I-5 would be bumper to fucking bumper. I'm not saying at 7 o'clock on Monday morning it was bumper to bumper. I'm not saying at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday it was bumper to bumper. 2 fucking o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday it was bumper to bumper. The idea of escaping Seattle, you know, that would have been good for a Hollywood movie, but it was not good for a lifestyle. And so when you think that they're going to be forcing people to come back to the office that live if you live 50 miles away, you've got to drive in the office at least 3 days a week. Man, that's not an hour commute. That's not an hour commute each way. That's got to be at least an hour and a half commute. And so the funny thing is Nadella, as the good CEO that he is realizing, right, through the syphilitic fog, right, the syphilitic fog that all these big tech CEOs have, he's realizing that morale at Microsoft is going in the toilet. Like, oh, this might be a problem. When you are paying people metric crap tons of money to work for your company, and then you crap can the morale, that is not something that's very good from the CEO position, right? As I've talked about before, malicious compliance. You have not savored true misery in life until you've had to deal with employees and malicious compliance. Oh, they did what you told them to do. They did exactly what you told them to do. Anyway, so I think this is going to be interesting with Microsoft and see how this goes. As Microsoft does seem to be weirdly spiraling. They're one of these companies, and I do wonder, it's almost like an Intel type thing, where they seem like they're at the top of the world. They seem like, as a corporation, they are doing absolutely terrifically. Their stock price is up, their revenue is up. Again, they're getting rid of 16,000 people as their stock price and revenue are massively up. Anyway, that stuff seems to be going good. Microsoft seems to have a new lease on life with Azure, right? You may not be using Windows. A lot of people have moved away from the operating systems, but for the cloud infrastructure, a lot of people are using Azure. AI things, maybe that's coming down the pike. But it's curious where it seems like Microsoft may be at the pinnacle of where it's going to be for this particular generation of technology. And we might be starting to see the point where everything starts to slide and go to hell. Because that's the thing, right? What happens when you have all of these employees that believe that they are valuable and powerful, and then you show them reality? It might go poorly. Anyways, coming from CNBC, we will do better. No, you won't. No, you won't. You know you won't, I know you won't, they all know you won't. Microsoft CEO Nadella admits company has to rebuild trust with employees. After the company totally eviscerated the trust with their employees, now the company has to rebuild the trust, which basically means the employees have to just shut up and deal with it. Which, again, I would agree with. To be clear here, I would agree with that. I just don't think the employees are going to agree with it that much. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella told employees in a meeting on Thursday that the company has work to do to smooth relations with employees after announcing several rounds of layoffs and a mandated partial return to in-person work. In the meeting that was held online, an employee asked executives to speak about perceived lack of empathy in the company's culture as of late and steps Microsoft is taking to rebuild trust with its workforce. I do find this to be interesting. Again, this whole thing like empathy. Empathy! Don't you have empathy for your employees? What the fuck does that matter? I need my paycheck to clear. I need my paycheck to clear and my health insurance to be paid for and hopefully to get my matching in my 401k. Do you actually need empathy between your leadership and your employees? And why I bring that up is I think one of the interesting things that's going to be happening over the next 5 years is there's so much of this touchy-feely horse crap that's been brought into the technology industry, right? Empathy and all lived experience and all this kind of thing. And the only reason that's come into the tech industry is because the tech industry has not been hiring for qualifications. It's been hiring for asses in seats, right? And so the issue is all this stuff has come in and you have a culture. I've talked about that before with technology cultures, startup cultures, right? The culture is what is the fundamental agreement of the people within your organization on essentially how the world should work. Right, I've talked about this before, right? If you run a factory, you want basically everybody in your organization to believe punctuality is next to godliness, right? Only a heathen, only a lazy, crack-headed, whatever, would not be 5 minutes early to being 5 minutes early. A real man is 5 minutes early to being 5 minutes early to be 5 minutes early. I guess you're not a real alpha dog, right? Because if you're running a factory and you have shifts, right, and things transition over during the shift changes, you need all of your employees to be there on time. You don't necessarily need them to be polite. You don't necessarily need them to be bathed. There's a whole bunch of stuff you don't necessarily need. You would like, but you don't need. What you do need is for them to show up on time. On the other hand, right, if you're in the technology world, if you're in the real technology world, not the horseshit these people have been doing for the past decade, right? The big thing is deliverables. Right? I don't care if you do your work at 6 o'clock in the morning, at midnight, at noon, or whatever else. I don't care if you finish your work in 2 hours or it takes you 24 hours to finish your work. We have a deadline for the deliverables. As long as you hand in quality work before the deadline, that's what I care about, right? Well, one of the issues that we have in the tech world right now is, when you hire for ass in seat, what is the deliverable there? The deliverable for ass in seat is ass in fact in seat. So they've been delivering. They have been delivering for the past 10 years. The problem is, though, when all you're paying for is asses in seats, people get bored. They want to do something. They want to contribute. Again, this is the real horror show in the tech world. Really understand this. They want to contribute, but they don't really care about technology, and they don't really care about your business. And they find capitalism to be fucking scary as shit. So what happens when you have employees that don't really care about technology? They don't really care about your business. They don't really care about capitalism. They just have a lot of time to sit and to want to be helpful. Well, they'll be helpful in the way that they feel that they can be helpful, right? This is one of the interesting things, like with psychology. What's always weird is everybody pipes in with their ideas about psychology. Like when I talk about things in life, almost nobody pipes in with their thoughts about replication strategies for database systems. Nobody's ever like, oh, Eli, I can't believe you used MySQL for that. Obviously, Postgres is better, right? Because you actually have to know what the fuck you're talking about. Right? Between MySQL and Postgres and SQLite and Aurora or whatever the hell AWS has, you actually have to know what the fuck you're talking about if you're talking about real technology. Right? But here's the thing, like when you talk about psychology, for some reason, everybody feels like they can just spit that shit out. Like talking about, oh, that person is a narcissist. Right? That's a big thing. They're a narcissist, or they're psychopath and sociopath, right? There's all this stuff. Like everybody likes to, they feel like they can just talk about psychology. I will say psychology is a real thing. Psychology is just as fucking real as database replication. But for some reason, it's like AI. Like people feel more intrinsically like they know something about psychology, right? Oh, I read a book about this one time. Anyway, so the issue is you have all of these asses in seats. They want to do something to bring something to your company. They don't know fuck all about technology and don't really care anyway. So what are they going to bring to your company? They're going to bring psychology to your company. Yeah. Isn't that going to be wonderful? And then you're going to have empathy, and then you're going to have lived experiences, and then you're going to have all of these buy-in sessions and all that kind of crap. And the issue becomes, right, you have a couple of blue hairs doing this. You have a couple of blue hairs that don't grasp that it's hair dye, not Gatorade. They're sucking on that hair dye bottle, wondering why their muscles are still sore. It's like, it's not Gatorade, jackasses, right? The thing is, you got one or two or three of those dipshits. Doesn't really matter. But when you have had a decade of building up this culture in your organization, when you actually have to get back to reality, when you are trying to save the fucking turkey from smacking into the ground at 500 miles an hour because the rocket is running out of fuel, all of a sudden, you're going to have a whole bunch of your employees really worried about all this emotional horse crap. And one of the curious things is, to be thinking about this, is how do you manage that? How do you manage when either you or previous management has so massively fucked up employee expectations that there is no goddamn way you can align with what the company needs to do with what your employees are actually expecting? That, I think, is going to be a fascinating question over the next 5 years. Because I hear it from real technology professionals. I hear out of real, professionals that work at technology companies. Let's put a little point on that one. Anyways, where they just, it is absolutely amazing how their expectations have nothing to do with reality. I'll be curious how you get those to line up. Because you need employees, right? I tell employees be nice to the bosses. But again, I would argue the employees also shouldn't be dipshits to the fucking, or the bosses shouldn't be dipshits to the fucking employees either. Like we need to come together. Like I think about this with, when I used to do like the emergency response team type thing. Like you think about the team leader, like the field team leader. Like that's the important, right? They're the head of the team. But here's the thing, you got the head of the team, and you've got your medic, and you got your RTO, and you got your navigator, and you got your specialist or whatever else. If your fucking medic falls off a cliff, it's gonna be a bad day. It's gonna be a terrifically bad day. If your ropes guy falls off a cliff, it's gonna be even a worse day. Hey, how do I tie a knot again? Yeah, no, stay conscious, stay with me. How do I tie this knot? Anyways, like there's this idea, like management is the most important, and then employees or whatever, the people underneath are disposable. No, but the reality is, right, if you don't try to keep everybody on board, things can get very wonkadoodle. Anyways, from Nadella. Quote, I deeply appreciate that the question and sentiment behind it, Nadella said in the audio that was obtained by CNBC. I take it as feedback for me and everyone in the leadership team, because at the end of the day, I think we can do better and we will do better. Then why the fuck didn't you do better? Right? This is one of the interesting things you hear about these little fucking shitheads in Silicon Valley at this point, right? They're fucking with their employees. They've been fucking with their employees for 10 years. Now we're just getting to the end game of this particular fucking. And the thing is, like, I think we can do better. Motherfucker, you are the CEO of a multi-trillion-dollar company. You can hire whatever fucking specialist you want, and if half of them fall off a fucking cliff, you can just hire another 500. You are a multi-trillion-dollar company who is very very used to cutting paychecks to your employees for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. How fucking dare you come out and say, I know we can do better. Yeah, jackass. And if you actually gave two shits about your employees, which you don't, which is one of the important things I want you to understand, every fucking employee out there that's listening to this, stop fucking doing a snot bubble for a second and realize these fuckers don't give two shits about you, because if they actually give a fuck about you, you wouldn't be going through this process right now, right? Because at the end of the day, I think we can do better. Then why didn't you do better before? You didn't do better before because you didn't give a fuck about your employees before. You don't give a fuck about your employees after. So stop fucking pretending. But anyways, we will do better. While Nadella and the executive team are taking criticism from some staffers, the Wall Street is applauding the company's growth and execution. The stock is up almost 20% this year, outperforming the broader market, pushing Microsoft's market cap to $3.7 trillion. So Nadella has a $3.7 trillion company, and he couldn't be bothered to do better before he actually took his actions, which only trails NVIDIA. In July, Microsoft reported a 24% increase in net income to $27 billion. The company's gross margins was under 69% compared to 71% in late 2023, right? So their stock price is up by 20%. Their net income is up by 24%. And yeah, they laid off 16,000 people. We're forcing return to office and the whole nine yards. And he's wondering why morale might be having some issues. Let's see here. Nadella said in the company meeting, quote, "We have some very, very hard work ahead of us, and that hard process of renewal is essentially what we have to do," Nadella said. "You have to be hardcore in terms of an intellectual honesty about what really needs to happen," right? And you've been hearing this from these jackasses, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg, whether it's Elon Musk, whoever else. You have to be hardcore. And what you got to think about for morale for these Microsoft employees, why the fuck should they be hardcore? They literally, right, 16,000 employees helped increase the value of their stock, helped increase the net revenue, massively increase the net revenue of your company, and yet you fired them. What Nadella has proven is if you work really hard for Microsoft and make Microsoft a better company, he will throw your ass in a fucking trash can. And I think that's one of the curious things here, right? We hear this out of Mark Zuckerberg, we hear this out of Elon Musk with Twitter, or X, whatever the fuck it's called. We hear this with Nadella in Microsoft, this idea of we have to be hardcore. You have to be hardcore so that I can make another $1 billion. And what I go back to is that the morale boost you think it's gonna be? It's like, wow, I shouldn't see my kids. I shouldn't go to Little League games just so this guy can get another $1 billion in the bank account. Let's see here. Microsoft's Azure cloud business grew by 39% in the last quarter. Look, all these numbers are going up. 20%, 24%, 39%, 16,000 fired. Anyways, but revenue in the Windows and devices business increased by just 2.5%, which also makes sense. I mean, I'm not really sure what their devices are anymore. They got rid of HoloLens. They don't do phones for a long time. They don't do HoloLens anymore. What other devices? Surface. I mean, they do Surface. I've heard Surfaces are good. I have no snark against the modern generation of Surfaces, but I don't think anybody thinks like the Surface is like a major profit driver for Microsoft. But Windows and Windows, right? Again, it's a fine operating system, but it's an operating system everybody already has. But Azure, which is their crown jewel right now, is up by 39%. Quote, "Some of the biggest businesses we built may not be as relevant going forward," Nadella said. "Some of the margin that we love today may not be there tomorrow, and that means we have to be way ahead of all those going away right." So basically the idea is that businesses have to change in the technology world. That wasn't the only contentious topic at the meeting. Employees are awaiting details from a third-party investigation after The Guardian said in August that Israel's military used Microsoft's Azure cloud infrastructure to store Palestinians' phone calls as part of Israel's invasion of Gaza. Microsoft has fired 5 employees following the protests at its headquarters in Redmond. Let's see here. Microsoft President Brad Smith, whose office protesters entered, addressed the issue on Thursday. He said that he and Coleman met with Jewish Microsoft employees who have been harassed and threatened and have seen their public information shared online. Quote, "We don't get to control what happens outside Microsoft, but we need to be clear about one thing," Smith said. Quote, "There is no room for anti-Semitism at Microsoft, and as a company and as a community, we will protect this group and defend them from that." So then we have this other thing going on where, yeah, it's interesting with this whole Microsoft thing in Gaza. Because you don't see it with NVIDIA. You don't seem to see it with NVIDIA. You don't seem to see it with Intel. You don't seem to see it as much with the other tech companies. There seems to be a real pushback at Microsoft over Microsoft's basically support of ethnic cleansing going on in Gaza. And what's curious here too, and again I wonder about that with morale, is you have employees protesting what's going on in Gaza, and then Microsoft coming out and saying very explicitly, "We want to make sure everybody knows we're not anti-Semitic." Which again goes back to that whole, I wonder how that will do with the whole morale thing at the company. So anyways, this will be a curious thing to continue to follow and see what happens with Microsoft, with them basically crapping on their employees, then demanding their employees be hardcore, at the exact same time wondering why morale is going in the toilet. I think this is very relevant for a lot of leaders out there, especially if you're a new leader. Is one of the things you really have to think about is how do you reset the expectations of your employees? Put all the snark aside. Put the snark aside and the jokes about, blue hairs drinking hair dye. Is that a joke? Is that a joke? I'm not sure that's a joke. Anyways, put that all aside. There is a real issue, right? Like, I've been doing tech since 1996. I've been doing tech since, how old was I? 1920? Anyways, long time. And right, the personality of the field has changed massively over the years, right? When I got into technology, so many of the technology professionals that were around were ex-military, right? So, I mean, it sounds stupid to say now. It sounds stupid now. But you do got to understand, if you go back to the 90s and before, if you wanted to touch real high-tech stuff, basically the military, the government, or the intelligence agencies is where you had to go, right? Because think about it. Like, when you went to your house in the 1980s or 1990s, you had a television and maybe a cable box. That was really it. You might have like a 286 computer. Like, everybody had 286 computers. Nobody knew what the fuck to do with them. It was hilarious. Like, everybody was told, you have to get a computer. And so they would get a computer. And then it would collect dust. You couldn't even watch porn on it. You couldn't even look at porn on a 286. That's what I'm talking about here, right? And so that was the thing. Like, if you want to work on tech, if you want to be a real technology professional, basically the only way to do it was, again, government, military, intelligence type thing, or like really like the actual AT&Ts, like the blue chip technology companies. And so the thing is, like, in the 90s and even the early 2000s, so many of us, you had that military-esque, you had that government-esque experience of you're coming in to do a job. You enjoy doing this particular type of work, and so you have a mentality when you walk in the door. Time changed, right? With the whole .com boom, that created another generation. Basically, the generation of a lot of small business people, small timers, realizing they could make a lot of money in technology, right? So then you started to have more of the entrepreneurial mindset in the technology world of, how can I take this product and scale it to 2,000 or 10,000 or something like that, and be able to sell. And so in that world, right, it is different than the ex-military government people type of world, but it was still very focused on ROI, return on investment. The reason that I'm doing this work is so I can buy a fucking yacht. Right? If you talk with business owners in 2009, they would say, I'm doing this so I can buy a yacht. Like, No shit. Why the fuck do you think I'm going to work 12 hours a day? I'm not going to work 12 hours a day just so I can give my employees a good paycheck and kumbaya and all this horse crap. I'm going to work 12 hours a day so I can buy a yacht. But anyways, right, that was a generation, right? All these movers and shakers out there, like, again, return on investment, total cost of ownership, all this kind of stuff, like again, about money and paying the bills and that type of deal. And then what's been interesting, right? You know, in the 2010s, there's been so much investor money out there that none of that matters anymore, right? And think about this. We have a generation of technology professionals who grew up with technology. Like, it was funny. I was talking with a buddy of mine who's a coder, and I was talking about, you know, getting shipped off to basic in 96. And he literally looked at me and said, that was when I was born. It's like, fuck. Fair enough. But that's the thing, right? We have a whole generation of adults that had literally came up with technology. They didn't need to go in the army for technology. They didn't need to go off to the government or do weird kind of shit. They just had it, right? DSL was pretty normalized by 2000. So we have 25-year-olds out there that have always known broadband, not even simply known internet. They've always known broadband. So they didn't have to go through the kind of experience that my ilk had to go through. Then at the same time, when they come of age, when they're coming into the workforce, right, there's all this investor money being thrown around. So you don't give a shit about RO, return on investment, who the fuck cares? Profit and loss statements, who the fuck cares? All that really matters is getting this investor money in. Right? And so we have this whole generation of technology professionals that are just disassociated from the idea that they're really supporting the company with pushing the ball forward, right? You talk with so many technology professionals now who literally argue about capitalism. It's very weird to talk with a technology professional going into late stage capitalism. You're like, oh, bucko. Oh, lordy, what the fuck? Anyways, and so the thing to be thinking about, if you're a tech leader right now, is how can you start moving the target for your employees in a way so that your employees don't lose their minds, right? Like, the thing is, you talk about that with like carrot and stick. When you're doing management, when you're doing leadership, there's carrot and stick, right? Stick is how you'll be punished. This is how you'll be punished, you know, if you don't do what I say. So if you don't do return to office, you'll get fired. Right, that's stick. One of the things to be thinking about is how can you use carrot more, right? How can you pay for things like happy hours? I've seen companies do that. Do not have a beer tap at your office. That is a liability disaster waiting to happen. But think about that. If you have a downtown office or whatever, you want people to start returning to the office. What if you do happy hour? What if you do happy hours? We're gonna pay for food and beer for anybody who shows up to the office today. Hey, look, if you don't show up to the office, you know, I would prefer you show up to the office. But for anybody who does, there's gonna be food and beer. There's a weird thing about technology professionals. I do not understand what it is. Even high-paid technology professionals, even technology professionals that are making just eye-watering salaries, if you tell them that you're offering free Coors Light, they will drink the shit out of that free Coors Light. It's weird. I'll be around technology, again, like people will be like giving out beer, and then you'll see the quality of the beer. It's not even Stella. It's not Stella. It's not Yingling. Even Yingling. It's like Coors Light. I don't know what it is. Geeks like free shit. Free food and drink, and geeks are all over it. I'm like, you know, I'm gonna just go to the bar and spend $10 on a decent pint. I'm not anti the beer thing. I'm anti Coors Light. I can afford to drink better than Coors Light. I will, right? But that's the thing, right? Technology, I don't know what it is. There's this weird thing. You give them free beer, like, why would I pay $10 for a good beer when I can get this for free? Like, Anyways, so that's one of the things to be thinking about. How can you use the carrot to get people to be more interested in coming to the office? And if you can get more people to come into the office, literally bring it to the point where it's not you saying they need to be in office, but it's their team saying they need to be in office. Like, and that might be the thing with like managers, right? Hey, Managers start coming to the office. These are some of the freebies that we'll offer. Hey, we'll offer. And again, you got to think about these people's salaries. These people's salaries start at $100,000 a year and go up from there. So things like, hey, we'll pay for gym memberships at the gym that's close to the office. Hey, we'll pay for free coffee, right, at the coffee shop that's close to the office. Hey, we'll do happy hours at the bar. It's close to the office, right? And then you start bringing enough people in. And then that's the thing. Let's say that you have a team of 10 people. You have a team of 10 people, right? You don't have to use the carrot to get all 10 people in. What you have to do is you have to use the carrot to get 5 people in. If you get half the team to decide of their own accord, it is worth it for them to come to the office, then all of a sudden you have half the team working together in the office to build stuff and do stuff. And then you have half the team working from home. At a certain point, the social pressure then comes from the team itself. Look, because you're not willing to come into the office, we're not able to have these discussions very easily. Why were you left out of the meeting? You were left out of the meeting because we were able just to go into the conference room and have the meeting, right? All of a sudden, that has the group putting the social pressure. It's not you as the boss putting the social pressure on, it's the group putting the social pressure on. And I think those are some of the things to be thinking about with like how do you change the mentality, right, of your company and how you, get people to look at things differently. The whole idea of starting to hire people based off of the new culture. Now, not necessarily hard asses, not necessarily like ex-drill sergeant, MBA hard asses, but people that are more focused on ROI, right? Like when you're sitting down, an important thing to understand is, you get 100 resumes, right? You get 100 resumes or 3,000 resumes. Jesus, I don't know how you people sort through resumes anymore, but you get a lot of resumes. And you know, if you get 3,000 resumes, at least 10 of them will be fine, hopefully. Right, 10 of them, any of those 10 will be fine. So one of the things to be looking at is just what are the differences here? Like, okay, so I've got these 10. So we need a Python developer. We need a Python developer in order to help build our AI platform. Okay, so all of these people know Python, and all of these people have some experience with AI. What are the additionals? What are the additionals there? Like, okay, so this one also knows Node. Oh, this one also minored in business administration when they were getting their bachelor's degree. Oh, this one, their parents, owned a convenience store while they were growing up, and they started working at it when 14 years old in order to make comic book money. Right? Oh, this one is out protesting Gaza every weekend. Right? And then you sit there and like out of it, right? They all know Python. They're all qualified enough with artificial intelligence. And when they come in and they start talking to you, they all present themselves fine enough, right? One of these people protests Gaza on Saturdays. One of these people works on Node on Saturdays. And one of these people goes to their family's convenience store and helps stock the warehouse on Saturdays. If you're trying to realign the culture of your organization to be more business focused, which one of these people do you think would be most appropriate to hire next? And that's one of the things like with when they bring CEOs in and they talk about changing organizations, that's one of the reasons it takes a long time. Right? When you bring in a CEO to change an organization, it takes years. It takes years because you've got to change internal policies. You've got to start figuring out the whole carrot and stick thing. At the exact same time, you start bringing in people that are slightly different to the culture. They're close enough to the culture that they're not going to rub people the wrong way, but they're slightly different enough to be thinking about ROI and that type of thing, right? I think these are some things to consider as we're going forward. Because like with companies like with Microsoft, like you look at it with AT&T, right? AT&T, the CEO is just a complete piece of shit, right? Basically, the AT&T CEO has made it quite clear he doesn't give a fuck about the employees. And the issue you've really got to think, when you're that blunt about it, then why do the employees care about your company? High expense employees don't give a shit about your company, right? Is that really the dynamic that you want to be setting up? Anyways, there you go. Some things to ponder, some things to think about. What do you think about Nadella realizing, oops, he might have screwed the pooch as far as morale goes at Microsoft? What do you think about this with a whole generation of professionals in technology, and how do you realign cultures of these corporations in the current environment? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a moron. Just be a real alpha dog and do it in the comment section. Do remember silicondojo.com does exist. In a couple of days, I'm going to Durham, North Carolina to verify a couple of things, and we're going to start having in-person classes in Durham, North Carolina. We're going to have in-person classes here in Asheville, North Carolina, and we have fireside chats using Zoom, basically online. If you're interested in any of that, go to silicondojo.com, sign up, become a member, and you'll be on the email list and all that kind of stuff. And with that, see y'all later.